Good morning, everyone. Well, it's nice to see everybody today. Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Lynn Drinkwater, and I'm the SEC program coordinator here. And one of my favorite things to do is organize these big educational programs, because there's a lot of information that a lot of us don't know until we're in a crisis mode, and then we have to seek it out. And that's usually when you don't want to learn a lot of this information. So I'm thankful that you are all here today. I'm thankful for all of the vendors that are here today, and for the wonderful people that brought us breakfast this morning. We've got the Greens at Pinehurst. We've got Bowles Funeral Home, Home Choice Network, and Garner Law Firm. So I'm going to do this kind of quick. Most of you know me. You know I don't stop talking, so this is going to be difficult. But we're going to switch up the agenda a little bit today. Scott Brooks is going to speak right after me, and then the time agenda where he's slated to speak, we're just going to move a couple of things. In football, that's known as audible. We love audibles. Anyway, so I work at the Senior Enrichment Center, but I work for the Department of Aging. So all of us staff here work for the county. We offer services for seniors in Moore County over the age of 60. We offer lots of services. Lots of people don't know about this. People think you have to be low income to get some of our services. That's not the case. So we offer things like medical transportation. So if you need to go to the doctors, you would sign up for medical transportation with Rhonda Priest, and she will have a little minivan, you know, the little vans that drive around town that say MCTS for Moore County Transportation Services. They will come pick you up, bring you to the doctor, bring you back home, and it's wonderful. They do all of Moore County. They used to do all the different surrounding counties all the way up to UNC Chapel Hill. I don't know if they have enough bus drivers right now to keep doing that, but that's what they normally do, which is wonderful service. You can bring a caregiver. They have wheelchair lifts for walkers and wheelchairs. We have, SHIP. I am right now helping out with Medicare. So I do these Medicare 101s. SHIP stands for Seniors Health Insurance Information Program. Just because you're 65 doesn't mean you don't need help. Every year, between October 15th and December 7th, what we like to try to do is help people save money for the following year, the upcoming year. Because just because you have a drug plan that works for you or health care that works for you now, doesn't mean there's another one that could work for you a little bit better for the following year. We also help with in-home aid. We have a registered nurse on duty. We have a supervisor of CNAs. CNAs are certified nursing assistants. They will go into a person's home for 2 to 2.5 hours a week. If a person is bed bound, they will go twice a week to help with bed baths and things like that. There's usually quite a wait list. Right now, I think it's down to maybe 80 or a little less than that. But the sooner you're on a wait list, the better it is. There's a lot more services that I'm not going to be able to speak with you about today, but on our table up here, right towards the door, is something called a fact sheet, F-A-C-T, not facts like the machine. And that fact sheet explains all the services that we have at the Senior Center. So I'm going to introduce Scott Brooks now. But after Scott, we're going to have Alvita. She'll talk to you about the Family Caregiver Program. And then we'll have Elaine Yamato, and she'll talk about fitness. And I just want to give the mic to Scott Brooks now. And I thank you very much for coming. And for those of you who've never been here before, out the doors and to the left is the restroom. So thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm kind of like Lynn. I like to talk as well. I teach a lot for our fire department and our EMS, and they affectionately call me No Break Brooks. So I got to go pretty quick to get through the information that I have in 20 minutes here. So click it one more time there. Good. All right, so my name's Scott Brooks, and I am the Deputy Director of Public Safety here in Moore County. We're a department that covers emergency medical services, our E911 communications, the Fire Marshal's office for the county. Oh, okay. Great. Perfect. Thank you. And I might need it before it's over with. But we cover the Fire Marshal's office and a division called Emergency Management. And that's primarily what I do on a daily basis is I do planning, training, exercises, things like that to make sure that all of our emergency services throughout the county is prepared for disasters, for large scale events, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm here today to just tell you a little bit about our emergency services program. So real quickly, just some quick introductions. Brian Phillips is our Director of Public Safety and the county's Fire Marshal. He's not with us today. He's doing real budget work to kind of keep finances going here. Again, my name is Scott Brooks. We have Brian Laskowski, which is our E911 Communications Chief. Grant Hunsucker is our EMS Chief. Matt Dawkins, our Deputy Fire Marshal. Michael Barbie is our Training and Logistics Chief. And Candace Dowd in the back of the room there on the left at our table is our Administrative Officer. And hey, she's really the one that runs the place. So let me talk to you about 911 really quick. And this is a problem that really and truthfully exists in Moore County. So I want you to kind of get this. We have a problem with people not calling 911 promptly. What they do is an emergency happens, and instead of calling 911, they call their son who lives over in Southern Pines, and they say, Daddy's sick, you better come check him. And he comes over, and then he says, oh, man, this is bad, I better call 911. And we've wasted 10 or 15 minutes here. Time is precious in this. We cannot do that. So I want you to get that kind of sunk into your heads right now. That is not the appropriate way to handle this. Call 911 and we will help you with all of the other process. And I want to explain all of that to you. So anytime you have a medical emergency, an accident or injury, fire, smoke, or extreme heat in your house, or any type of law enforcement assistance, then call 911. Other than that, we're not a 411 or any other informational stuff. We probably don't know what time the parade starts or where the fireworks are or things along that lines. But any of those emergencies, then please call 911 promptly. And this is the reason why. We don't want you to hesitate. Time is of critical importance here. So some of you have had CPR training in the past, and you probably remember that brain damage begins in about 4 minutes or so once you quit breathing. Well, if you're anything like me, you need all the brain cells that you have left. So time is pretty critical to me itself. But what I'm trying to say is if you're having difficulty breathing and you're not getting oxygen to your brain or your vital organs, and we waste a lot of time, then the chances of you surviving are pretty slim to none, okay? So usually we can estimate and say about 1 minute of delay would equal a 10% decrease in your chance of survival. So if it takes us 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes to get to your house anyway, I want you to understand every minute is about a 10% decrease in your chance of survival. I can show you that on the fire side as well. This is a way that we teach this. Normally, if we can get you a fire truck to your structure fire within less than 8 minutes, we can keep it to what's called room and contents. So in other words, if you have a kitchen fire, if I can get you a fire truck there in 8 minutes, then you get a new kitchen, all right? If it's more than 8 minutes, then we lose the house, okay? It'll be fully involved and we won't be able to stop the progression in most cases. If we get on over here towards the 15 or the 16-minute time frame, then we're good at saving things like mailboxes and first steps. It's not a good story to tell from that standpoint. If you smell smoke inside your house, if you've got extreme heat from a panel box or some confusion, if you see flames, then call 911. We'll get there. If you've got the fire out by the time we get there, guess what? We'll say, great, Thank you. And we'll go back home and everything's fine. The same thing when we're in ambulance. If we get there and by then you figured out that, hey, mama was just having a diabetic issue and I gave her some sugar and now she's conscious and alert times 3 and there's no injuries, our paramedics will help check you out. And if you don't want to go to the hospital, they say, great, okay, thank you very much. And they go back to their station and you get to stay at home and everything's fine with that. So this is how you call 911. Most of you are familiar with that, but hopefully most of you have not had to call before. We want you to be prepared. This can be a process in itself and take a little bit of time if you're not prepared. So when you call 911, we answer the phone as Moore County 911. What is the address of your emergency? Okay, pretty simple question, right? You'd be amazed at how many people get confused with that question. You got to remember, this may be the most stressful event in your life because your loved one or whoever, is in really, really critical shape. So our suggestion is that you put labels near your phone. I don't care if it's even a little Post-it note or whatever, but to remind you of things that you just might not remember in a crisis situation. Also think about if you have one of the CNAs or a neighbor or a grandchild or something there with you, they may not remember your address and all that information. So let's cheat a little bit and let's post that information and kind of help everybody along. So we need to know what the address of the emergency is. Honestly, we're looking at it on a computer screen, but we have to confirm that we're sending our resources to the right address. So even if let's say you're at church and you don't know what the actual address is, then start talking. Say, I'm at church. I'm at blank, 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 blank. I'm going to go to this church. I'm on this road. They'll be able to connect the dots and be able to figure it out there. But that's the first piece of information that we need. The second piece is a telephone number. Why do you think we need a telephone number? To be able to call you back if we need additional information or if we get disconnected from some regard, okay? And then we need the nature of the emergency, and that's pretty simple. That is, I need an ambulance, I need a fire truck, I need a police car. That's all we need right now, okay? And some of you will get into, well, my husband, he is so stubborn. He's not taking his medication in 2 weeks. He just had a heart attack last year. That's too much. Our telecommunicators are going to cut you off and say, ma'am, do you need an ambulance? And we're going to progress through that information as quickly as possible. Once you give us this information, we're dispatching services. So the ambulance is dispatched, the fire truck is dispatched, the police car is dispatched, whatever service you need is getting dispatched at this point. We may stay on the line with you for the next 10 minutes. It is not uncommon for our telecommunicators to still be on the phone with you when the ambulance arrives. All right. And I'll explain why of that. But I want you to know the important part is as soon as we get this information, which normally takes us about 20 seconds, we're dispatching. So a fireman's pager or ambulance, computer is going off to say, hey, you've got a call. This is where the address is and this is what's going on. All of our telecommunicators are North Carolina and nationally certified telecommunicators. We use a lot of technology like automatic number identification, automatic location identification, a pretty robust computer-assisted dispatch, a geographical information system. We do a lot of good things like emergency medical dispatch, and we can give you pre-arrival instructions like how to do CPR, how to deliver a baby, how to control hemorrhage, different things along that line. So that's why we stay on the phone with you to make sure that you're able to deliver some of those life-saving skills. We also do emergency fire dispatch to tell you a little bit about how you can control fire. Just real quickly, we're not going to spend a lot of time with this, but we do have an 800 megahertz communication system. We have a backup 911 center that's here located in this immediate area. We use a locution automated dispatch, which is a computer automated dispatch system. This is our mobile command unit, so you might see it out somewhere if we're on big incidents like searches or big fires or different events such as that. And we also maintain the county road sign system, which is the green signs out in the county that tells you what the name of that road is so that we can help get our emergency responders to you. Tell you a little bit about our emergency medical services system, because that's something that you may interact with more. But we have strategically located units and personnel all throughout the county. We currently are running 8 ambulances, paramedic level ambulances, and 4 QRVs. We're hoping to add an additional ambulance after July 1st. So if you know any commissioners, you could put a plug in for us. So that budget is up to them at this particular point here. Tell you what paramedics are. Paramedics are much like nurses at the emergency room. We say that paramedics can pretty much do everything in the back of an ambulance that you can get done in the emergency department, with the exception of x-rays and running lab work. We have to guess a little bit on things like lab work, and x-rays, we just splint you up and we carry you to the hospital. We don't care whether it's broken or, if it's just a strain or sprain or something along that lines. They'll figure that out. We're going to splint it up. But our paramedics carry 60 plus medications. They do a lot of invasive skills like IVs, interosseous infusions, intubation, where they put the tube in your throat if you're having trouble breathing, pleural decompressions, cricothyroidotomies, 12-lead EKGs, cardioversion, external pacing. Some of those medical terminologies you're familiar with and have had or know someone that has had. This is pretty important about our EMS system. We're unique from anyone else in the state of North Carolina, and honestly, there's only a couple in the entire country. But way back in 1991, you citizens and our commissioners put in a tax base to fund your EMS. So the majority of our funding comes out of the tax that you pay on an annual basis. And if you ever notice that on your tax bill, it's called an ALS tax. So the majority of our funding comes from that. We do have a fee for service process, but let me explain that to you. This is pretty important. It's designed to collect available funds from the federal, state, and private insurance company. So Moore County taxpayers are exempt from copays and deductibles. So in other words, if you live in Moore County and you pay taxes and you pay your ALS tax, then when we come to get you, we do not bill you for any copays or deductible. If you have Medicare, then we get our $175 from Medicare. If you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, then we may get $400 from Blue Cross Blue Shield, because that's what they allow for ambulances. But we do not bill you for the copay and deductible. If it's January 1st and you've not met your deductible yet, guess what? It costs you nothing. If it's December 31st and you've already met your deductible, guess what? It costs you nothing. That is board approved. It was approved at the federal level by the Office of Inspector General, and it creates about 1.5, it's actually a little bit higher right now, $1 million a year to supplement our emergency medical services. Real quickly, let me give you that math one more time. So if our ambulance bill is $425, a Moore County resident versus a non-resident, and let's say your third-party payer pays $300. If you are a Moore County resident, you're exempt from all copays and deductibles. If you're not a resident, then we're going to bill you $125, and we'll turn it over to collections at some point in the future, honestly, because they're not paying their taxes here. So as a Moore County resident, your out-of-pocket cost is zero. Okay? You might not think that that's a big deal, but I challenge you to go to Durham or Greensboro or Raleigh or something like that and take an ambulance ride, and you'll come back and say, oh boy, them people in 1991 were really, really, really smart. They were a whole lot smarter than me. I weren't here then. So tell you a little bit about the emergency management side. If you want any disaster preparedness information, this is a great website to go to. And Miss Candace has some information back there that has this on it. But readync.org is where we direct people to get information about tornadoes and hurricanes and flash floods and all of that related information associated with that. It is vast. It's too much for me to put into a presentation and try to cover for you. But that is readync.org. I see a lot of people writing, so I'll pause just a second here. Check my timing. All right, so we have an emergency notification system that we would like for you to register for, and let me explain that. If there's a big event going on, then we use this emergency notification system to let you know that this event is going on. I'm going to use a wildfire for an example. Let's say there's a wildfire out in like Foxfire and it's moving towards Pinehurst, and I need to be able to notify residents. This is going to be the first and primary way that I would do that, is I can draw a circle on a map and it'll call everyone that I have on their phone that I have on file within our system. Unfortunately, all we have is your home phone, okay, that is registered through a phone company. That is the only database that we have. Some of you probably don't have a home phone anymore. So in other words, I don't have a way to contact you. If you'll go to our county website, then you look for a little red phone, you sign up on that emergency notification system, takes you just a minute or so. You give us additional cell phones. They get geocoded to your address. If there's a missing person or a fire or a hazardous material incident, anything along that information, along that lines, then we'll call you and let you know about that. We don't call you for other stuff like that we're not going to pick up trash on Tuesday, because honestly, we don't pick up trash anyway. But we don't bother you with all that. We don't sell your information, so you're not going to get spam callers and stuff along that lines because you shared your information with us. Now, I will say Pinehurst and Southern Pines and Aberdeen all have similar systems that they will call you to say that they're not picking up trash or things are delayed or this road's closed or things along that lines. But the county does not. We are kind of heavily involved in social media, so if you do that stuff, if you know what all this means, which I really don't, then we're on all of that. You just have to look for us. Most of the time, it's going to be listed as Moore County Public Safety. So, of course, we're on Facebook and Twitter and whatever Blogspot is, and we pretty much try to put everything that we can on our county website, which is moorecountync.gov. If you want to know what's going on from an emergency standpoint or a disaster standpoint, that's probably the best place that you should go. This is our number one best suggestion, is if you want to know when things are happening, then this is the way you do that. This is like a fireman's pager, or this is how I get my information. Our 911 center gets our information from NOAA. So I used to say Radio Shack, but there's no such thing anymore. I don't guess. There's not one here anyway. But we used to have a great relationship with them. Now you can buy them at Walmart or drugstores. You can even order them on Amazon. But it's called a NOAA weather radio. And what they do is they sit quietly. This thing just sits on your bedside table or on a dresser or on your coffee table or whatever it is. You never hear anything out of it until a major event is happening, like a tornado or severe winds, flooding, etc., like that. And then it makes all kinds of noise, wakes you up, says, this is what's going on. It lets you know that information, then it gets quiet again. But that is the quickest way to be able to get emergency-related information. They cost somewhere in the $27 to $35 range, depending upon whether you buy the Chevrolet, the GMC, or the Cadillac version. They all do the same thing. They all make a lot of noise whenever it's time to let you know something. I'm almost finished here. Additional information: when approached by an emergency vehicle, pull to the right. Pull to the right. From the time they can walk, we teach firemen, police officers, and paramedics to pass on the left, to pass on the left, to pass on the left. If you go left, I know there's a turn lane there, a great big beautiful one. If you go left and that 60,000-pound fire truck goes left, what do we have? Who's going to win? All right, and y'all see it every day if you watch the news, okay? So pull to the right. Ensure your smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are working correctly. What we like to say is when you change the clock, change the battery. Well, some of you'd say, well, that 9-volt battery's not dead yet. There's my timer. That 9-volt battery's not dead yet. Look, let's be honest with you. That 9-volt battery probably cost $1.25. If we can't afford $1.25 twice a year when we change times to be sure that our smoke detectors are working, we might ought to give up some other habit. like smoking or a Coke or whatever that, crutch is that you have here. Ensure that those emergency contact numbers and your address is posted by each telephone. If you can, then learn CPR and first aid. You might be able to save your loved one's life. We do several of those throughout the county free on an annual basis here. We would like for you to create a disaster plan. Think about it now. Talk to your loved ones, your daughter, your son, your grandchildren, your neighbors, your spouse, etc. Meet with family members and discuss the need to plan for a disaster. Think about it now when it's blue skies, which might not be quite so blue today, but understand what I'm saying here. Think about it now. Don't think about it when the wind's blowing at 50 miles per hour or there's floodwaters up to your knees. Let's talk about it now and let's get good plans together. Discuss the types of disasters that are most likely to happen. Pick you two places to meet and have a good plan for that. Blah, 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 blah. I won't get into a lot of that. It's all on that website, readync.gov, associated with that. We think you should have 72-hour family emergency kit, some supplies, some things that will keep you alive and make life comfortable. How many people lost power back in December? Oh, yeah, that's what I thought. So this is a perfect example of that. What we normally see is when it snows or when they call for snow, what happens? Everybody runs to the grocery store to get milk and bread. All right? So we have a whole lot of milk sandwiches. Well, now after COVID, we get milk, bread, and toilet paper. So just think about this. Let's don't get into this panic mode. What happens in an event like in December when it's a no notice type event? The power just went out. The grocery stores were closed. Walmart was closed, some of those, okay? If we don't have some of these essentials here, life can be pretty tough for us. Some of you probably suffered just a little bit. I hope you didn't suffer too bad, but you probably suffered a little bit during that power outage. So there's several emergency needs, things like a sanitation kit, standard first aid kit. We suggest you make copies of all your legal papers. My last kind of soapbox that I'll get on, and this is what I get most involved in, and Miss Candace has got a poster back there to show you. But we get complaints quite often, and they get directed to me about that our ambulance couldn't find us. Okay. Normally what I do is I go out and I drive and I go and see why our ambulance couldn't find that particular address. These are real pictures of some that I found. So can y'all see this address? What's the problem with that? It's not a contrasting color. It matches the brick pretty much, right? Now, we can barely see that during the day, but does a paramedic have a chance of seeing that at 3 o'clock in the morning when it's dark or when it's raining or things? No. What about this one here? Can you tell which house they're supposed to go to? Could there be a couple of minute delay trying to figure that out? That one, those are all pretty bad examples, right? Now, these are some. Miss Candace is telling you back there how to buy these type signs. It's actually a fundraiser for most of our fire departments. They cost, I don't know exactly, $6, $7, $10 or so, but this is a reflective sign. You can get it put on both sides. They actually make a little wrought iron stand that they'll come out and put them up in your yard for you. This is a pretty good example that you can buy, and some people over in Whispering Pines actually have these. This one's not terrible. At least it's got reflective letters. If you're really worried about the cosmetics of things, this one here doesn't look too bad. You can order that. That was about $50 or so off of Amazon to get that to put in your yard. Even if you have a theme, I kind of like this one. It's got a reflective lettering here. Did I mention my last name is Brooks? Look, this is what a mailbox is supposed to look like here, okay? So it's got my name on it. It's actually got my numbers. It stands out. I need all the help in the world. Honestly, if my house is on fire, I want them to be able to find me. If I'm having a medical emergency, my wife's probably going to delay a little bit anyway. So I need all the help I can get with this. Miss Candace has got the information back there, but we really promote an item called File of Life in a Yellow Dot program. So what this is this is a magnetic slip that puts on your refrigerator, and it's got all of this information in it. the things that you won't remember during a crisis, like what medications you're on and what your wife's allergic to, and all of this type of information. We have this in an electronic format on our website, so it's not something you have to rewrite every time your doctor changes stuff. You can save it on your computer if you're a computer person, and you can update that information, print it out, and put it back in there. You don't have to have two of them. Both you and your wife or your husband can have the information in there. We'll figure it out from there. The Yellow Dot program is the same type of information, except it goes in your car in case you're out in the real world here, not at home, and you have some type of an emergency. This sticker goes on the back glass of your car. It lets our firefighters, police officers, and paramedics know that your emergency information is inside the glove compartment of your car. The File of Life has a sticker that goes on your door, the door that normally the paramedics or firefighters would come in. I'm almost done, I promise. So that's a little about Yellow Dot. The last thing I'll tell you is we do on our website have a medically fragile individual registry. If you have issues such as mobility issues, if you would need help evacuating during a disaster process, if you needed power for oxygen or ventilator or other types of medical related equipment, then we ask you to give us a head start on this. If you let us know this information, then every time we have a disaster, I'm going back to the December power outages. One of the first things that I done within an hour of the event happening, I was looking at our medically fragile population registry to see if there were needs. I have the ability, you won't get very far with them, but I have the ability to call the power companies direct to be able to say, look, Miss Jones that lives at 1234 Main Street has to have power. We need as quickly, and I can't work miracles either, but we need to get her restored as quickly as possible. Or if not, I'm going to have to take her somewhere. I'm going to have to take her to the hospital or a shelter or whatever. She's not going to have but so many hours worth of oxygen by tank. But I have to have that information in advance. If not, can you imagine when a disaster really gets spun up and I've got all these different things going on? Can I give you that individual attention that you really need? No. So medically fragile population. Only 2 people in the entire county have access to this. Once that information comes to me, when you complete it online, it comes to me, and then my boss has access to it. It's under lock and key at our department. And we really don't ask a lot of information. I don't care what your social security number is or any of that stuff. I just want to know, hey, I live here. These are the types of needs that I have to have during a disaster. All right, and that's enough. So if you need help, Miss Candace is in the back there. She can direct you to pretty much everything. There's our office numbers if you have specific questions or anything. If I've confused you and you need additional come through all of this stuff so that you're better prepared to stay at home, okay? Thank y'all very much.
Thank you so much, Scott. I'll take that. Thank you so much. Have a great day and stay safe out there. We always love it when Scott comes. He always has great information. Thank you again. Okay, so next up, I'm going to have Alveda Person speak. She is our family caregiver advisor and my partner in crime. Every time we have a big program like this, Alveda and I are the one scheme and set up and tear down and have fun. Anyway, so here is Alveda Person. There you go. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Alveda Person, as Lynn said. I am the family caregiver advisor here at the Senior Center. I assist caregivers with someone they're caring for a loved one at home with some type of cognitive issue, whether that be Alzheimer's, the most prevalent one, dementia, the most prevalent one is Alzheimer's. They could have some kind of confusion, memory loss. I assist caregivers with resources for them to help take better care of the loved one at home or just to assist them. If you do become one of my caregivers on my program, you are eligible for incontinence supplies such as bed pads or the pull-ups. You're also eligible for respite care, and we do contract with 2 respite agencies, home care agencies in the area that would send someone out to help that caregiver get a break. They usually go out in 4-hour increments just so you can get out and get a break and do some other things that you might need to do. Also with that program, we offer support group for the caregiver. That support group is the 3rd Tuesday of each month at 11 o'clock. And I have quite a few caregivers that come and we talk, and it's really nice to have them get together and to be able to talk. Because sometimes they can't talk, might not have a family member they can talk to, so they come to the group and they can be able to talk a little better. If you do become a part of that program, like I said, we have an Insure program also. You will be eligible for Insure. I usually order you 3 cases a month, and 1 order a month. The most common questions I get with that program, if an individual that's not a caregiver, they'll call and say, I need the incontinence supplies. Can I get those? We do not have an incontinence supply program, but we do have an Insure supply program. You can get, an individual can call and say, I need Insure. I would need a doctor's note faxed to the center here, and it's a 1-page application to fill out, and I order once a month. And the Insure that is the regular, the original is $16. The plus is $18, and we do have the Glucerna for diabetics. Now with the Insure program, like I said, I order once a month, and the caregiver can get that for their loved one, and the incontinence supplies. That's at no cost to the caregiver. But if you're just the individual that need Insure, there is a price for that. So that's pretty much my program in a nutshell. Do I have any questions about that program? Okay, I have cards over here on the table if anyone would like to get one. If you know someone, a caregiver that might need help on their caregiving journey, please take one of my cards and have them give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you. Alvita also left out that a lot of times when caregivers are taking care of a loved one, sometimes they are mentally and physically exhausted. And by the time they learn about our programs, they come in and they say, is there anybody that can help me with something? And they bring them to Alvita's office. And Alvita is like a rock. And she is so easy to talk to and so understanding. And so a lot of times people go in there and just start talking about what it is that they're going through. A lot of times they'll either break down and cry because they are just at their wits' end. And Alvita is just a wonderful human being. So that's just another part of her job, is to listen to people. And then as she hears the situations that they're in, she's able to direct them or give them the correct resources that they're looking for. And she's also the one person that when somebody calls the front desk and they want transportation or they want Medicare, they know exactly where to switch them. But when they get a question that they don't know the answer to, they switch them to Alvita. And Alvita, if she doesn't have the answer, she goes and finds it out. So that's wonderful. So now I'm going to introduce Elaine Yamato. And Elaine heads up our evidence-based fitness programs. And she's going to talk to you a little bit about that, as well as, so she's here all the time, even though she's a part-time employee. She's always volunteering, and she's a wonderful woman. She's perfect for her position as well. So here's Elaine.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, usually Chris is our fitness coordinator, and he's usually here, but he had to do something with senior games, so I'm his substitute. So sorry, but I'll do the best I can. So this is our exercise programs are just perfect for this topic. Should I go or should I stay? the way that you can stay in your home is really by being fit, by being active. And what's that word that starts with an E? Exercise. So we all need that. And the more fit we are, the better able we are to do things like our daily living skills. You know, washing the clothes, preparing meals, putting the dishes into the dishwasher, just things that we do every day. So we want to be able to do that. That's what's going to keep us in our home. So the fitness schedule is always on the front desk, and this tells you what classes they are and when they are, what time. All the classes on this schedule are always ongoing. You don't have to sign up for them. You don't have to call them and reserve a spot. They're always ongoing. You just come, and you could come one day and not come the other day. So Carol does the she does sit and stretch, and she does a brain boost, and she does a couple of ones, and then Chris does the Silver and Fit and the Tabata and cardio class. So all that is on this schedule. Chris also does what's called PWR, and that's for Parkinson's wellness recovery, and that's for people who have Parkinson's. So if you know anybody who does have Parkinson's, that class is on Wednesdays and Fridays at 1 o'clock, and he addresses exercises for people who have Parkinson's to ensure that whatever it is that they're losing, that they need, that they develop those muscles. So it's very good. And then let's see, I think that's it. So I'm going to talk about the evidence-based. We have 3 evidence-based health programs here at the Senior Center. The evidence-based is just like it says. They're studied, they're rigorous. You know, they've been checked over, they're researched, and they believe that these programs are successful. So the first one that we have is called A Matter of Balance. And we actually are going to start that class on, what is the date? April 18th, Tuesday. So I think there's still a couple of openings. So if you're interested, you can sign up for that class. The Matter of Balance is, I like that class. It's discussion and it's exercises. It's a 2-hour class. We meet twice a week for 4 weeks. So it's 8 sessions. And the class will be from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. We usually keep it small, maybe 10 to 12 people, because we discuss with the participants, and then we start our exercises at the 3rd session. And then we do the exercises every time after that. Because it's 2 hours, we do have a little break in between. It is, let's see, I'm going to just say really quick. So Matter of Balance, who should attend the class? If you have concerns about falling, or if you've had falls, you should attend. If you've gotten to the point where the falls have really frightened you and you tend to stay at home and not go out, then this class is for you. You know, we want you to get rid of that fear of falling. Everybody falls. Toddlers fall, kids fall, even professional athletes. I mean, well, sometimes their game involves falling, but everybody falls. So I think we think as we get older, oh, it's because we're old that we fall, and it's not true. So you have to realize that once you get over that, then you can really go forward. So falls, one thing about falls, they are preventable. So once you learn that, then I think you get more confidence and you'll be able to go out and do things. Let's see. It's also good because of the exercises, it helps to improve your strength, your flexibility, your stamina, which is your cardio, and your balance. And then I think it really helps with your confidence. You learn that falls are controllable. We're in control of that. We just have to be more mindful and aware of where we are at any time, especially when we go someplace that we're not familiar with. And the other good thing about Matter of Balance is we have a home safety check, and it's in the book. And you go through your house, and it touches on every room in the house and any issues that might be unsafe. The next class that I do is called Tai Chi for arthritis fall prevention. And arthritis has gotten Tai Chi has gotten very popular. Arthritis has always been around, but Tai Chi is very popular. And my program is very easy. There's only 12 moves. It's simple. It's difficult to learn because I think we're not exposed to Tai Chi. We don't see it. Like most things that we do, we see it. People play golf. They play tennis. They play pickleball. So you see it. So if someone says, "Oh, you want it," you sort of have an idea of what to do. In Tai Chi, we don't really see it that much. So we have no idea what it entails. And it's not complicated. It's just that it's different. So if you have an open mind and if you're patient, and it is slow moving, the moves are done slowly, mainly to help you to try to coordinate the feet and the hands. We'll step and then we'll also move our hands. So there's a little bit of coordination, which is good for us because it's good for our brain. We're going to create new pathways to our brain. So learning something new is really good. So Tai Chi is good for that. The other benefits of Tai Chi, it strengthens us. I think it creates less stress in our life, gives us more relaxation. It helps with our mental fitness, I think, as well. And because it's a mind, body, and spirit activity, it really calms us down, and I think it just makes us more reachable. The last class that I do is called Walk with Ease. And just like it says, it's a walking class. Walk with Ease meets for 6 weeks. We meet 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And that class is a fun class. That class is for somebody, if you already walk, you don't need to go to Walk with Ease. But if you've been inactive, like especially during COVID, and you just want to start something, you need to get started in something, Walk with Ease is a good place to start. Walking, almost everybody can walk. It's, you just go out and walk. You walk at your own pace. It's individualized for each person, so you don't have to compete with anybody. And you get into the habit, because most people, it's interesting, most people will come to the class 3 times a week for 6 weeks. So I say, okay, this is good. This is a good start. So now you just need to continue this when you go home. One thing good about the evidence-based health programs is that we give you the tools, we give you everything that you need, and hopefully you'll go home and, it empowers you to take control of your health and your well-being. And you have all the tools, you know what you need to do, you have the exercises, you have, everything, all the information. So, and that's what we want to do, is we want to empower adults to take care of their health, their well-being, and everything, so that we can all stay in our homes. So thank you. And on our table, I do have brochures if you're interested.
Thank you, Elaine. And the other thing that's wonderful about our fitness program here at the Senior Center is when people go and they have a hip replacement, knee replacement, and you go to rehab, you usually are only given a certain amount of sessions. And then afterwards, you're not 100% yet. So now what do? You're left with a bunch of exercises, and you go home and you never do them. And then what happens is your knee becomes stiff or your hip becomes stiff because you're just going back to
Hello.
but it's not really working very well. So what you can do is you can bring those actual classes, the exercises, to Chris Peavy, our fitness coordinator, and he can actually take them and convert them into the exercise machines that we have here at the fitness center, our little fitness room. But then these classes that Elaine was just speaking about, those are perfect as well, because even though you might not be maybe frail or have balance issues, you're still wanting to move those joints. So that's another perk for using the classes that Elaine teaches. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce Mike Inaselli, Home Choice Network, and I'm not going to give you this mic since it's going in and out and in and out. Do you want to use this one stationary, or I'll give you another one that you can? You want to use that one? There you go. Yes. This one? forward, that one goes backwards, and then if you touch that little guy, that's the little. Yes, we got laser beams. Okay, so you ready there?
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Anaselli. I'm with Home Choice Network. Just brief 15-second bio. I've been working with long-term care since 1983. I have been anything from assisted living administrator, retirement community executive director, nursing home administrator, and a hospital administrator for a 4-bed hospital. So I've done about everything. But before we get started, everybody has been just seated for a long time. Why don't we just take a minute and stand up, and it'll make you feel better. I think it's a good way to start. You can stretch a little. There, see, that's the sound I wanted to hear. Great. Okay, we can get started now. Good, we've got the circulation going a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to talk about home care. Home care is not something you can just do and say, I want to be a home care company. In order to be home care, you have to be licensed by the state of North Carolina. It's not an application. It's a 14-month-long process to get to that point. You start with about a 20-page application. You have to have complete policies, procedures, business plan. Then you have to go through 3 meetings with the Department of Health and Human Services. They approve it. You go through a 6-month trial period. They come out and do field evaluations of what you're doing by going to the people you're providing services for. Then you go from a provisional license to a regular license. So anybody in North Carolina who says they are a home care agency, to be legal, ask if they have a license, because a number of people don't. It's a process that you have to go through that is monitored by the state of North Carolina. So what is home care besides that? It provides non-medical care. It is not home health care. It is home care. We do the things that make everyday work. Healthcare comes out and they'll do IVs, they'll do complex medical procedures, they'll do wound care, and they'll do medical gas care. They will not keep you in your home. We want to stay at home. You need some form of home care if you do not have a caregiver who is capable of doing it. And it's been touched on several times before. You wear out. You need someone to come in who can alleviate that or can provide care that you don't. I always use the example, somebody asked me, why do I need it? I don't do brain surgery on myself. I go to the experts that have the tools. Home care is what will allow that to happen in your home. And what kind of non-medical services? The 2 big ones are companion. We just went through something that's been unprecedented in America. It was called COVID. Things were shut down. You couldn't leave the house. You couldn't see family. You couldn't see people that were in the hospital, that were in facilities. You just couldn't visit friends. Anything that made life social was gone. Well, if you're confined to a house because you can't drive, you're fragile, you have mobility issues, where do you get companionship? Especially if you don't have family. Home care can do that. A large percentage of what home care comes in is not to provide the kind of support you think, but it's to have face-to-face human interaction on a regular basis. And it really makes a difference. And the other one is home helper. Home helper is what the name implies. Anything that you need to keep a house going, home care can provide. It can be as simple as watering the plants, walking the dog, changing the litter box, laundry, changing the bed linens. The one I hate to do at home more than anything else is ironing. It takes care of ironing. I mean, to me, that's just torture. But I mean, if I could hire someone just to do that, I probably would. But, get the mail, buy your groceries. All of these things home care can provide. But it's what keeps you independent, healthy, and functional at home. You don't realize it Because you're out here today, it means you can get out of the house. But think what it'd be like if your world were those four walls of your house. That's what we can help with. And transportation. Transportation is, and to be home care, to be licensed, it has to be what you call a assisted transfer. In other words, you have to be able to bear some weight. You cannot physically pick a person up with a home care license, carry them, put them in a chair, or carry them and put them in a car. But if they can stand up long enough from the bed to get a wheelchair to them, get them to the car, stand up long enough to pivot and turn and in the car, we can do that. But that's important to remember. The other one is that with lifting devices, no. If somebody has a Hoyer lift, if a person in the family wants to do it and we can stand by, that's fine. But you are not by license allowed to do that for obvious reasons. Has anybody in here, raise a hand, ever assisted with a Hoyer lift or one of those lifts or been in one? Can you think of how horrible it'd be to start twirling around in that and there's not a person to guide you or help you? It's more for safety and for the psychological well-being of the person being lifted. I can't think of anything more helpless than being lifted and not having any control over it. So that's why they say no. And the other one are activities of daily living. What I've talked about are not activities of daily living. Your activities of daily living are things that make you function as a human being. Any one of those is enough to keep you from living at home if you can't do it. And this is what is identified are the ADLs. Eating. Eating is more than just bringing food from the plate to your mouth. It's preparing the meals. It's making sure that you have adequate grocery supplies and cooking supplies. It means that you have a menu that is healthy for you. That is what eating is. Eating candy bars and drinking Cokes is not going to get you through much of life. But if someone can come in and at least cook a meal a day or have a meal a day ready for you when they leave, that's going to help. Bathing, even if it's standby assist, just someone to make sure that you feel comfortable getting in and out of the shower or the tub. It doesn't mean they have to bathe you, but it means that if I don't like stepping over that tub, or I feel that I can't wash the bottom half of my body because I can't bend anymore without feeling I'm losing my balance, this is a time to consider maybe home care would be appropriate. Dressing. I heard this thing was just on the radio over the week, and I thought it'd be good to bring this in. It's a little antidote. The guy says if you're hearing moaning and sighing, we're not doing anything wrong in the bedroom. I'm just putting the socks on. So that's why we may need help with dressing. Transferring, I touched on that, but as you can see there, they're not picking the person up. They're helping them stand up. They're helping them transfer. And that's what is implied with that. And then toileting. Toileting, that ranges from, I want somebody to help me get off the commode, on the commode. I can do everything but pull my pants up. I can do everything except, clean myself. Everything else I know how to do. That's one form of toileting. The other one is I have no control anymore over bowel or bladder. And I need someone to get me through this process. People say, well, I just use Depends. Well, still somebody has to change the Depends and somebody still has to clean you up. And that's what home care can provide. And then walking and moving around. I was touched on with, why do we do walking? One of the best things you can do as a human being is walk every day. Best thing. It gives you balance. It gives you stamina. It gives you bone density. It gives you muscle tone. All of that's great. University of Boston Medical School just conducted a study. And everybody's doing a study, but I think this one's appropriate. Do you know one of the best things that can help you with both cognition and balance over the age of 65? Anybody have a guess? Walking and what? Not just walking. And it's not chewing gum. It's walking and talking with someone. They said it greatly enhances balance, and cognition. So if you can find someone to walk with, if it's a person from home care, if it's your spouse, if it's a neighbor, and talk at the same time, you're going to be doing yourself a big favor. And they don't know the exact mechanics or the neurology of what it is, but they do know that it works. Now, if you're going to get this, who's going to pay for it? Medicare. Repeat after me. Medicare does not pay for home care. We get this all the time. Well, why doesn't Medicare pay for it? They only cover home health care. And usually for about 28 days at a time, and that's it. So it is private pay. It means out of pocket. If you have a long-term care insurance, and just leave you with long-term care insurance, something really important. Check with your agent if you have it, because definitions change, coverage has changed over the years. The best person to answer your question is your agent. It is not the person that comes out to give you home care. It's not your neighbor. It's not your spouse. It is the person who is selling and maintaining your policy. Because we found that a lot of policies were written 25, 30 years ago, and they didn't have things like home care or assisted living. And so the only thing you'd find in your policy says, we're going to pay for it if you go to a nursing home, or we're going to pay for it if you get home health care. It doesn't mention anything else. But now they've expanded that. So please check that. VA benefits, they'll pay for it. And it's on a sliding scale. The county has a superb VA benefits program and coordinators. Check with them. If you're a spouse of a veteran or you are a veteran, check with them and see if they will cover anything. And that's usually reimbursement. You pay the agency, they reimburse you. And the last one is Medicaid. If you qualify for Medicaid, they do have a home care program. Again, you'd have to see if you qualify for Medicaid to find out the specifics on that. And who needs home care? Anyone who wishes to remain at home. Now, this is kind of a filtered, what I call a filtered audience, meaning you're here because I'm going to make a wild guess you're over 65, just a guess. But the point being that that's not the only one. In our agency, our youngest client we had was 8 months old because they were twins. Both parents were deployed. They were military. And they got this call. They had to go. Someone had to watch the children. We did. The other one is our oldest has been 102. But we've had people everywhere in between. Think about when you're 30 years old, say you weren't married, you're living on your own, you got in a car wreck and you couldn't drive anymore. And you couldn't get around the house until you were healed. Who's going to take care of you? Home care. So don't think of you have relatives or you have, children or grandchildren and they have some type of trauma or event coming, procedure. Don't think that, they can't get home care. It's not just for seniors. It's across the board. We're licensed to take care across the board. And someone is recovering from a procedure and someone who is recovering from an accident. That can be anyone at any time. Why choose home care? The agency is required to meet state regulations regarding performance, administrative support, and medical record protection. We didn't have to be licensed as an agency. This is an example. We didn't have to be licensed as an agency for the first 5 years of our existence because it wasn't required. We went from doing everything from applications to insurance to taxes, everything with 40 forms. We now have 148 doing the same thing. But everything, in some ways you say, well, gee, that's a lot of stipulation. But what it does is it protects you as a client. Because we have to document everything we do for you, and we have to give you documented proof. We have to give you written guarantee, written understanding of what it is we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and what we've done. So you are protected if you are with an agency. The administrative support, before we could be licensed, just so you understand, it's not just doing the process. Before I said you had to have financial records, you have to show a 2-year business plan that has to be approved, showing your financing, your ability to pay your caregivers, your ability to meet your financial obligations before you're allowed to operate. So you can't be somebody that says, I'm going to open an office, get a license, and 6 months into it realize I can't support this operation. So they make sure that that happens. I am not a big person on regulation. However, I will tell you, when it comes to a fragile population you're caring for, you do need protections in place. A license affords that. And medical record protection. Believe me, a fourth of what we have to do is guarantee protection of any protected information or confidential information we have. It is an exaggerated, extracted process. However, it protects you. So an agency will make sure that that happens. And by the way, the state comes out and says, hey, how you doing, unannounced. And they don't just go to us. They randomly pick clients and go to their house and say, may we talk to you about what's occurring? They take the care plan. They take the assessment we do. They talk to them and make sure that everything dovetails, because if it doesn't, we're not doing our job. And aides and nurses are employees covered with liability insurance and workers' compensation insurance. You can find good people who want to care for you that will do it, what they call private duty. But if something goes wrong, are they insured? And if you are an agency, you have to carry this insurance. And an agency will carry what we call W-2 employees, which means they're also covered under workers' comp, and the tax burden is covered by the agency. And the last one with that is that along that is the caregivers are screened, trained, and supervised by an RN. And you have backup caregivers for call-outs. If Mary gets sick and she's just by herself, who covers? And the other one is the supervisors and or owners who are accountable for performance. So you can pick up the phone and there's someone you can say, this isn't gone right, I need to talk to you. And that is available. I've covered quite a bit. I have 3 minutes to go. Do I have questions? I don't have any questions. Oh, one back there. Yes, ma'am. Do I have any way of telling you that? Yes, it can range anywhere from, I want to say last time we did a market survey, anywhere from $22, $23 to $28 a month. Yes, that's it. My time's up. Okay, my time's up. Timed it well. Thank you very much. I appreciated the opportunity. Thank you.
Usually I sneak up on people and I say, okay, time's up, but that was built into their presentation. Veronica just happened to hit the button. That was not on purpose, but anyway. This is Veronica Sanchez, and she is co-owners with Mike Inacelli with Home Choice Network and this new company that they have formed. So without further ado, this is Veronica, and I'm going to change this.
Good morning. This is not a new company. It's the same company. It's Home Choice Network, and we are providing these services. And actually, today is the first time that we are talking to people about this. So my name is Veronica Sanchez, and I appreciate to have a few minutes of your time for me to tell you all about aging in place. I am a certified aging in place specialist, and in my 25 years as a home care service provider, I frequently observe that maintaining independence, it has been difficult in some homes who they don't accommodate the limitations brought on by age. So I came to the realization that right now or on the future, people will going to consider to have a certified aging in place specialist who will require the certified aging in place specialist is being professionally trained to understand the process on aging and the home environment. We identify and locate specialized services that require the specific construction options of addressing accessibility or adaptability. And we often utilize the universal designs for your home. I would like to say that universal design encompasses the home designs, products, or specific environments that it will enhance accessibility. It's for all people regardless the age or the disabilities. Simply put, we can assist you in improve your home environment, which entails your full support and understanding as what is best for you to remain in your home. Facing immediate and future needs to remain in your home is understandably a key concern. My professional certification as an aging in place specialist is from the National Association of Home Builders, which is the oldest and the largest association for home care professionals. So what do we do for you? We identify your current needs, we determine future needs, and we determine your family and your friends' needs. So that way we can make your house visitable for any type, any people, any age. How do we do this? So I will provide a comprehensive home evaluation. And when we have any specific particular needs, we utilize the services of an occupational therapist so that she will professionally give suggestions to a client regarding modifications in their home to allow the individual to live independently as possible while they're comfortably performing daily activities. Also, these services can include people who they may have dementia. We also help you to identify budget. We help you to build your budget, and we identify the necessary resources, and also we arranging with your builders, supplies, handyman services, or financial institutions to meet any particular specific needs. So it says that a picture worth 1,000 words, right? So this is some pictures about how home modifications can work to have the aging in place and enjoyment for people to live in. We can see a couple who they planning their living space. We can see the living room, open area, handrails, modification, ramps, bathrooms, the kitchens, all utilizing universal design. It is amazing sometimes when we're going to clients' homes and we can suggest some type of modification, and people are so tight saying, well, no, I don't want anything changed in my home. this is my way. Or sometimes people have been falling from the bed because it's too high and they don't want to change it. Just think about it. Make sure that if you want to remain there, you need to consider to adjust for the changes that you're having in life. So who will benefit? The AARP bulletin in March of this year addresses aging in place, and they highlight the following. So 2 out of 3 adults over 50 years old, they want to remain to be in their current home. 1 in 3 said that they will need to modify their current residence so that they or their loved ones can continue to live in there. We all recognize that everything that works well in life requires planning, time, work, and money, right? Choices must be made. So we suggest for you to remain in your home, to make your home workable for you. So here are some facts for the American Council of Aging regarding the average cost of facility-based care in Moore County in 2022. The skilled nursing facility on a semi-private room, the monthly cost $7,493. The annual cost $89,790. The private room is $8,250 monthly, and annual $98,500. Assisted living, please note that they do not have any semi-private rooms. They are only private rooms in assisted living. So the monthly cost is $5,352, and the annual cost is $64,224. Regretfully, the cost is still increasing. Keep in mind that those costs are only for your room and board. Medications, supplies, and incidentals are all extras. However, there are good news. A home project on average is $30,000, which is half of the annual cost of facility-based care unit. I am aware that living at home is not an option for everyone. Moore County is very fortunate to have a wide variety of qualified facility-based care options. But if your wish and desire is to remain at home, the one you love and cherish, then let's partner with us as a team to help you make your home your forever home. Thank you.
Okay, so now is the time to actually get up and stretch. The restrooms are out and to the left. You can help yourselves to more refreshments, whatever is left. Please visit all the table vendors, and we will be back at 10:45. Thank you. All right, everybody. Whoa, that's loud. I always turn it up for the low talkers who come to the front, and then I get in here and I talk really loud. Okay, everybody. Everybody. Nice shining faces, everyone in their places. Remember that? Something like that in school. All right. So it looks like we have some people who went AWOL during the break. And that's usually sometimes why I don't like to build a break in, because there's still fabulous information that we build for the whole session. So next up we have Kelly Green. She is with our local Moore County Veterans Services. Most people think and get confused and they say, oh, that's the VA. But no, they're the Veterans Services. They are here to help you every step of the way. And there's so many great benefits to veterans and spouses of veterans. And they're just local here in Carthage. So here is Kelly Green. Do you want to stand in front of that or? Okay. Sure.
Good morning. As Lynn said, I am Kelly Green. I am from the Moore County Veteran Services. We are county employees. We are not the VA. All of our services are free as well. We do not charge for anything, but we help veterans with getting their benefits through the VA. There are several different programs as far as for VA and for staying in your home and for going to, nursing homes or different facilities, assisted living. Today, we're going to talk about the VA Caregiver Program, which is through the VA Medical Center. They offer this program you must be a veteran and you must be enrolled in the VA Medical Center to qualify for these programs. There are two different programs through the VA for caregivers. One is called the General Caregiver Support Services, and the other is the Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers. For the General Caregiver Support Services, their mission is to serve caregivers with respect to services excellent through a wide range of support, education, and tools that empower them to care for themselves and the veteran. The general caregiver is in this program is defined as a person who provides personal care services to a veteran that's enrolled in the VA healthcare who needs assistance with one or more activities of daily living or needs supervision or protection based on symptoms or residuals of neurological care and impairment or injuries. For this program, the general caregiver does not need to be a relative or live in the home with the veteran. To enroll in this program, all you have to do is call the VA Medical Center and ask for the caregiver support team, and they will get you enrolled. The services provided to the general caregiver is training and support through in-person, online, and telehealth services, skills training focused on caregiving for a veteran's unique needs, individual counseling related to care for the veteran, respite care to give you a break and have someone else come in, and also peer support mentoring. So that's the general caregiver. That program does not pay the caregiver. That is just for them to have support through the VA medical facility. The second program that the VA Medical offers is called the Program of Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers. This is an enhanced clinical support for family caregivers of eligible veterans. Again, the veteran must be enrolled in the VA Medical Center. The veteran must have a serious injury incurred or aggravated in the line of duty. Excuse me. The VA defines serious injury as a 70% service-connected rating. So that's a disability rating through the VA Benefit Administration, two different entities of the VA. And the veteran must need personal care services for a minimum of 6 months to qualify for this comprehensive program. The comprehensive program does pay the family member to be a caregiver for the veteran. In order for the caregiver to qualify, they must be at least 18 years of old, be the veteran's spouse, son, daughter, parent, step family member, or extended family member, or someone who lives with the veteran full time. So they have to be able to be there all the time with the veteran. To enroll in this program, there is a form that we have to fill out and send to the VA medical, and then they will do a assessment of the veteran and the caregiver to see if they qualify. The services that are provided for the caregiver through this is education and training, enhanced respite care. You can get at least 30 days per year. Mental health counseling, beneficiary travel pay, so they'll pay you to go to and from appointments. Again, the monthly stipend, so they'll pay the family member of the veteran a monthly stipend. If the family member does not have TRICARE, then they would be eligible for a medical insurance called CHAMP VA. And they also help with financial planning and legal resources. Are there any questions? That went really fast. There's a couple other programs that we're going to get into next week about from VA as well. How many veterans do we have in the room? Great. Well, if I have not, or I know some of you I've already talked to, if I have not talked to you, please come by our table. There's a lot, like I said, there's a wide range of different programs, but today we were going to go into just the caregiver. So please come by and see us, and also thank you for your service.
Lee is awesome and has a ton of information, and she's a wealth of knowledge and is always a delight and has the cutest laugh. And so now let's see. Oh yeah, I'm going to call this up. Next up, we have Emily Lauder from DSS, and I'm going to try to find it here. Over here. You just hit this to forward, that's back, and then this is the little ray. So again, here's Emily Lauder from DSS.
Good morning. I work with Moore County DSS, like she said. We have a plethora of services that we offer. But today I'm going to talk about a specific program called Special Assistance in Home, and it is geared towards keeping you safely in your home. All right, so there are two different terms that you'll hear: special assistance and then special assistance in home. They're both geared through Medicaid. They're Medicaid-driven programs, and special assistance, or SA, is a state supplement to the federal SSI program, and it provides assistance to individuals to pay for room and board in a facility. The program we're going to talk about today, Special Assistance in Home, or SA in Home for short, it provides funds to low-income individuals who are at risk of being placed in a facility. It provides additional support and funds to help people remain in their home by meeting their essential needs and keeping them safe. And you'll notice that I use the word safe a lot in this presentation because that's the basis of the program. It's to not just keep you in your home, but to make sure that you're safe and that you have the supports you need and you're having your essential needs met. The Sandhills Center also does the Special Assistance in-Home program. Now, Sandhills Center, they work with people with mental health disorders or intellectual or developmental disabilities. And when they're involved and they do your SA in-Home application, it is, they do their own case management, but it's still Medicaid-based. So how do you apply for SA in-home? First and foremost, you apply at Moore County Department of Social Services here in Carthage, and you can apply for yourself or you can elect an authorized representative, and that's just as simple as completing a form of saying, hey, I want this person to do this application and that process on my behalf, and you just both sign it. Sometimes if you're in the hospital or something, you know, you can't get there. So having that person be that support is crucial. All applications are submitted and processed through Adult Medicaid, and all require a wet signature. So that's why it's important. If you can't do it, somebody can, because we have to have that wet signature for the application. And all applications, again, they are processed through Adult Medicaid. So eligibility requirements. You must be receiving or eligible for full coverage Medicaid. You must be receiving the maximum SSI benefit that you're eligible for. And your assets and resources cannot exceed $2,000. You're required to receive all benefits available through Moore County DSS, like food stamps, transportation, anything that you're entitled to. And it just helps make sure that you're taking full advantage of what you are entitled to. And lastly, you must have an FL2 form, which is completed by your primary physician. And an FL2 is just a single sheet of paper. It's got your basic info, and then your doctor puts your diagnoses and your medications, and then what you're physically able to do for yourself. You remember Home Choice talked about those ADLs, your activities of daily living, what you need assistance with, and then a recommended level of care, which has to be for the program domiciliary or a rest home. All right. So after you apply, the adult Medicaid worker will notify the case manager or social worker of the program, which is currently me, and they will provide the verified monthly income and then the rate that you are entitled to receive, because it is a financial supplement you get monthly, and it is based on income. And so then the social worker for the case management piece will go to the home and do an in-person visit. And during the visit, we assess a bunch of different criteria. We look at your social functioning, your economics, your environment, your mental health, your ADLs and IADLs, and your physical health. And then just your overall safety in the home. Because again, that's key. How are we keeping you safe here? Because it's a requirement for the program. You have to be deemed safe. So we look at all this to see how we can better keep you safe or how this supplement can continue to keep you safe. And then afterwards, the social worker will contact Adult Medicaid and let them know if you're eligible on the case management piece. And then Medicaid processes the application. And by doing that, they verify your assets, they review your bank records, life insurance policies, property ownership, things of that nature. And then once the adult's application is processed, the social worker will go out for a second home visit. And that's as part of the program is the case management piece, where you have regular contact with a social worker to assure that continued safety. And through that, you have a service plan where you have goals of just different things of how we can keep things going the way they are and to address any new needs that may arise. And then once you're processed, you begin receiving that SA in-home payment, which is deposited into your account, and you'll get backdated back to when you applied for the program. So you'll get paid through the application date. And so how the rate is determined is pretty simple. It's income-based per state guidance. And then there are two types of rates. There's a standard rate and an enhanced rate. So that FL2 form we talked about from your doctor, if there is a dementia or an Alzheimer's diagnosis on that FL2, then you're eligible for the enhanced rate. And then if otherwise, you get a standard rate. And then the ongoing rate can change only if your benefits change. So you know how you get the cost of living adjustment at the beginning of the year a lot of times. So if that goes up, the payment will adjust accordingly since it is income-based. And then who manages these funds? The client manages the funds. They go directly into your bank account. What we might implement to encourage you to use them for, that's discussed through the case management. Like maybe you're prone to falls and you need a life alert. So we may discuss maybe these funds can be used to help pay for that, things such as that. So the ongoing is with the social worker, you'll have monthly contacts by phone and then quarterly home visits, where every 3 months the social worker will come out and see you, see what's changed, what's new, or make sure everything's going well. And again, as I said before, to make sure you continue to be safe. That's the key. And we'll update your goals as needed. And then if for some reason the client is unable to manage those SA in-home funds themselves, the social worker can serve as a representative payee and manage those through a trust account that goes directly to social services. So hold on, I flipped the wrong page. All right, so reasons for termination from SA in-home. So, the client becomes unable to be maintained safely. Say they have significant changes in their health. Say they suddenly become bedbound and there isn't anybody there 24/7 to provide care. And that's an unsafe situation. So if the safety changes for whatever reasons, you can be terminated from the program. Say you need a higher level of care, that maybe you went from needing some assistance again to total care, and it can't be, happen in the home, or CAP services become more appropriate. Or the client becomes homeless or is out of their home for over 30 days. This can mean you go into the hospital for an extended stay, or possibly you go from the hospital to rehab. And then also that FL2 has to be renewed each year. If we don't receive this, then you would be terminated as well, since that is a requirement. Or that the client does not complete and return the SA in-home re-enrollment form, or that you simply request not to be in the program anymore. But the key is, even if you are terminated, you can reapply for SA in-home at any time. Say you go to rehab, you work the rehab, but you've been out of your home for a month and a half. Well, when you're getting ready to come back, reapply for the program. So, you can reapply for it. So don't think that once you're terminated, you can't get back into it. And that's all I have. And if you have any questions about this program or anything with DSS, we have a table over there. And as I tell everybody that stops by, we don't just offer food stamps and Medicaid, we offer a lot, even if it's to connect you with other resources available in the county. So if we can't help you, we try to connect you with somebody in the county that can. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. And a lot of times, if we have people in our offices who we're helping with Medicare questions, and then usually when someone comes in and they have one something that they need, then it's usually they need more than one thing. So we usually try to figure out what else is available for that person. And we'll contact DSS right when we're in our office, and they're wonderful. They're just down the street in Carthage, but they're so helpful. So next up we have Becky Odell, and she's with First Health Hospice and Palliative Care just down the road a piece. And she's going to talk to you a little bit about hospice and, well, advanced directives, which is the most important thing, and about a great drive-through event that they're having next week that Alvita and I are going to be volunteers for. So here is Becky. So you can either use the stationary one or just, what's that one? Okay. You're okay.
Hi, I'm Becky Odell. I work with First Health, Hospice, and Palliative Care. And as you know, in our community, the brand new cancer center, so that's been very exciting. That's where our palliative care new clinic is. So, which is super exciting. And our providers there are specially trained in palliative care, and one of their specialties is advanced directives. So a lot of patients will see them even just one time to kind of talk about advanced directives and make a plan. So we have in the clinic, there's 2 large family rooms, and there's a screen even where you can pull up, and a family member who's maybe out of town, you can pull them up and they can also be part of that. But I just wanted to talk for a minute today about the event that we're having on advanced directives on April the 13th. From 11 to 1. It's a drive-through event. And at this event, you can do your living will and your healthcare power of attorney. So we will have notaries there. We will have social workers. We will make copies for you. Lots of awesome volunteers, an attorney. You can go to firsthealth.org and download these forms if you want beforehand, or you can get them at the event. Which is all free. But one of the benefits of having these completed is once you have these completed, then we can download those into your First Health chart in Epic. So whenever you go to any First Health hospital office, it will be right there. These are my wishes. You know, I'm a DNR or whatever it is. And that way it makes it a very smooth, streamlined process. And I was kind of looking at some research and I was doing this, and 3 out of 4 people will not be able to make a health decision at some point in their life because of something that happens to them. So I thought that was 3 out of 4 is a pretty, I like data myself. I'm a counselor also, so I like data. So it's a very important thing. But another thing is, so that's the big why. Why should you do this? Because the data shows that 3 out of 4 people this can happen to, and we won't know what your wishes are. So, and then who? And that, looking at that, is who is a good decision maker for you? Who do you trust? Who do you know that, the person has to be just over 18 years old? So, who's going to follow your wishes? Who is assertive in your life? Who can talk to your doctors? Because this person will talk to your doctors. If you're unconscious, or if you have to go into surgery, or some kind of an emergency, this person needs to be assertive, right? Because sometimes you can have a group, a family or friends that they're all working together for your best needs, but you need one person who's actually going to speak up and be assertive, and that's probably the person you'd want to pick. Because they might want to ask some questions, right? And then go back to the group and say, okay, this is what the doctors relayed, and kind of decide as a team, but one spokesperson. And then after you've just determined this, give it some thought, is talking about that with your friends and your family, what matters most to you. It's really a values thing. When I look at the counseling aspect of it, it's really figuring out what matters most. At this stage in your life, what's important to you? Who do you value? What do you value? What do you want this to look like if there was an emergency? So anyway, it's kind of a deep subject and a lot of reflection, but I think it's definitely a healthy, and I see it as a health and wellness thing. I think it can probably give us a sense of peace if we know we do have a plan, right? If something does happen. So, and anyway, this another website I wanted to tell you about too is prepareforyourcare.org. There was a lot of good information on that. And then firsthealth.org. You can call me too at the office and I will direct you and definitely find out where to go. But I wanted to share with you a video that we did recently with Dr. Willard. She's our medical director. A lot of you know her in our community. She's been with hospice for a long time and First Health. But she's our hospice and palliative medical director. I was going to show that video because she explains it really well, why it's important as a provider. And then we have another video on our website if you want to watch that at a later time with Patricia Niemeyer. She's an attorney with Robbins, May, and Rich. But if you go to our site, it will show in the 2 forms that you need to download if you want to download them and print them prior to the event. And the video? All right. Maybe it's. Does anyone have any questions while we're waiting?
Why do physicians and others who work?
She has a big voice, if any of you know Dr. Willard. I know. I have a counselor voice. Yes. It would depend on what you have with your attorney. As long as they're with the North Carolina documents, then those are what, but definitely bring those in when you go to an appointment at First Health and we can download them and put them in your chart. So here's Dr. Willard.
In healthcare recommend that patients create advance directives. One of the fundamental principles of medical ethics is that of patient autonomy, which means that the patient has the right to make their own decisions about their health care. And we talk about that through a process called shared decision making. What that means is that a physician or other healthcare worker will explain to you your treatment options, their risks, and their benefits. And armed with that information, you then decide what path you wish to pursue. Unfortunately, for all of us, at some point, we are likely to lose capacity to make medical decisions, whether that is something like a car accident that rendered you unable to speak temporarily, or a more chronic illness such as a dementia or complication of a surgical procedure. In those situations, we would like guidance regarding who to talk to that will make medical decisions for you that you feel are in most agreement with your desires in that situation. Well, why do you need to do that? I hear that question quite frequently. Many times patients tell me, I have a power of attorney. But in fact, the financial power of attorney that allows someone to complete your banking or make other financial decisions for you does not extend to them the right to make healthcare decisions. Likewise, there are a lot of assumptions about who in your family or the friend at your bedside will be allowed to make decisions when you're in the hospital. In fact, if you have not designated a healthcare power of attorney, then the legal system designates a hierarchy that we have to follow. Some of it is logical, but other situations it may not reflect what you think. For example, the state of North Carolina does not recognize common law marriage. And if you have not divorced your spouse, then technically your spouse is still your default decision maker in situations where decisions must be made. In addition, another example, your children. If your children are the default decision makers, then the majority of your adult children must agree before any decision can be made. So designating a specific healthcare power of attorney takes some of that conflict and uncertainty away and directs us to the person that you feel would be most likely to respect your wishes. After we talk about a healthcare power of attorney, we then talk about a living will. Now, a living will is designed to give guidance to your healthcare team and your healthcare power of attorney regarding specific situations. Most commonly, living wills include statements of your desires regarding things like life support, CPR, feeding tubes, and intravenous antibiotics. But some living wills do extend to other healthcare procedures. It is important to note, however, that a healthcare power of attorney is not obligated to follow the wishes expressed on your living will unless you have checked the box on the living will that states that they do not have the right to override your living will. So what happens after you create these documents? Yes, it's easy to do the legal side of things, but more importantly, first of all, you need to have a conversation and ongoing conversations with your extended family, but also with that healthcare power of attorney, so that they understand your values in particular situations, why you want those decisions to be made, and so that they can be comfortable that they are respecting your wishes. Also, periodic reevaluation is important. Your desires may change as you age, as you develop other health problems. Your wishes about things like life support may change. Your healthcare power of attorney may also need to change. Unfortunately, sometimes your designated healthcare power of attorney may get sick before you do, or they may develop other problems or perhaps be transferred out of the area and not be immediately available. So having a conversation and periodically reevaluating these documents are as important, if not more important, than the actual creation of them.
And if you want to stop by my table, I have brochures here for the advertising the free walk drive-through for the advanced directives. Or if you have any questions, I also have some new palliative care brochures. Yes. I think that's kind of a legal question. And with Patricia in that next section, the next video, she really gets into like the details of I would hate to say something incorrect, but I know that your spouse is your default. So, do you have another question? Oh, okay. So there probably is a space for a second person. So, well, thank you so much for your time. And I know this is a uncomfortable conversation sometimes, but it's definitely healthy. Well, thank you all.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, Alvita and I will be there. We usually serve as volunteers when you need witnesses. And it's a big drive-through, especially on a beautiful day. It's so nice. Their gardens are gorgeous, and it's a very important thing to do. So next up, we have, let's see, we're going to do a little switch again. Can we do Kathy first? And then Jennifer Garner, we'll save her for last. Kathy, do you have a PowerPoint? Excuse me? You do not? Oh, wonderful. Then I'm just going to turn this projector off. And Kathy Haynes works with Bowles Funeral, and she's going to talk about the importance and actually a loving gesture when you pre-plan your funeral. So thank you, Kathy. Oh, you can go, I will just do from here all the way to that flag. She's a walker.
I like to walk. And then she gets on to me for not being within the perimeters of the projector. So I'm gonna have to get on to Jennifer because she messed up my opening line was, there's a reason why we are last. as you might can guess, that typically we are probably the last people to see you on this earth. And contrary to popular belief, this is not your forever home. So for those of you who don't want to talk about it, that leaves it to your loved ones to make lots of decisions. So this morning, in our short time, I'd like for you to, instead of thinking about what we do as being the last thing, think about it as being the beginning for your loved ones. It's some of the first decisions that they will have to make, some of the first things that they will have to do without you. Many times I hear people say, or I like to ask, have you ever planned a funeral or been involved with the planning of a funeral? Many times the answer I get is, it's their mom, and they're like, no, mom took care of dad's. Dad took care of his parents. We just showed up. Well, there's a little bit that has to happen between the dying, the showing up. So that's where we come in. So this morning, I'd like for you to think about your loved ones more than about your feelings about that. Then you say, well, how do we do that? How do we plan? It's as simple as calling us and making an appointment. It takes about 45 minutes or an hour. I usually start with answering all of your questions as best I can, and then seeing what homework I have, and then seeing what homework you need to have. And then I do three things. One, I take vital statistics, not your heart rate and your blood pressure, but the things that we need for a North Carolina death certificate. Especially in cases of a blended family, they may not know some of the answers to the questions. And that also gives us a leg up when it comes time to work on that death certificate. We can be doing things behind the scenes while the planning is continuing. So it's things like where you were born, mom and dad's name, especially mother's maiden name. A lot of people don't know that. Date of birth, social security number, all of those kinds of things. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we talk about is what type of disposition have you chosen? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be casketed and buried? Do you want to be cremated and buried? There's a multitude of choices that you might not want your family to be in charge of. So if you pass away and you have 5 children and 3 of them want you to be buried and the other 2 don't care, well, then we have a conversation. The kind of conversation where I get up and I leave the room while they decide what's going to happen next. Because in a case of cremation in North Carolina, they do allow you to authorize your own, which we at the funeral home love that. We love for you to sign your own document. When you don't, just as she was talking about before me, she was talking about advance directive where the state considers spouse to be the default person. Same thing with cremation. The spouse is my person. But if the spouse is incapacitated or has also passed away and you have 5 children, I need 5 signatures. I need everybody to agree that that's what needs to happen if you want it to be cremated. And then once we get past that hurdle, the third thing is you would go home with an estimate of your specific situation. I do a lot of community education and a lot, well, not a lot, always. Somebody wants to know, okay, how much does it cost to be cremated? How much does it cost to be buried? Well, it all depends. So our focus for this morning won't be cost, but I did want you to know there is no cost or obligation for you to come and sit with us, document your wishes, and let me tell you in today's prices what it would cost to fulfill your wishes. So that's kind of how I go with that. The other thing that I wanted you to know is if you have, we love to come and we love to bring food. So if you have a women's group, if you have a men's group, you have a church group, you have a civic group, you have any of those type things that need a program, I'm your girl. I'll come, I'll bring food, I'll get in, I'll get out. You won't even know I've been. So give us a call because we love to come out and visit. We'll come to you. Now, that's kind of my short and sweet version of what we do. Any particular questions that are not related to cost that I can answer? Lynn always has one.
Always have questions because, first of all, I remember the questions from other talks that maybe you guys are thinking of or maybe you didn't think of. But what happens if you pre-plan with Kathy and then you move to Florida?
She gets an A for today. So prepayment is not required, but certainly an option. When you pre-fund your plans with us, it is transferable anywhere in the country. It's a pretty easy process. You so say you live here, children in Florida, you decide, okay, I need to be near them so that they can help care for us. And then you pass away. And the kids are like, okay, we need to get them to you. And I'm like, no, you just call a funeral home there and we'll get the money to them. Now, you never lose the money that you put in, no matter what. You don't lose the money that you put in. Let me say that again. You do not lose the money that you put in. What you do lose when you transfer that pre-need is you lose, if it's written inflation proof, which 90% of the contracts that we write are inflation proof, meaning the service portion and the merchandise portion of the contract guaranteed. No matter how long you live or how much our price goes up, your family doesn't pay anymore. Now, so you need to transfer to a different state. They're not going to guarantee this, and you've had this pre-need, say, 10 years. So our price has gone up. They're not going to guarantee our price. I'm pretty 99% sure they're not going to guarantee our price. We would not guarantee their price if it was coming the other way. But whatever is in that account goes toward whatever the cost is wherever you are.
If you have a policy, do the person holding that policy have to turn it over to the funeral home, or can I myself deal with the insurance people that I have the policy with?
Did you hear her question? If she has an insurance policy that she wants to use toward her cost, can she do that? Yes, she absolutely can do that. There are a couple of different scenarios. One is if you are applying for Medicaid and they have told you that you need to reduce your assets, that life insurance, if it has cash value, is considered an asset. So we have many folks that call us and say, my social worker has told me that I need to assign my policy to the funeral home. So then you change the beneficiary to the funeral home, and then we write a contract. Now, with those types, if you have an insurance policy that you bring to us, we do not guarantee those prices. There are 100 or more types of insurance policies. They all act a little bit differently. They all pay out a little bit differently, and we do not guarantee those policies. Now, if you don't need to sign, if you're not trying to get Medicaid and you just say, I have a child that I know won't do the right thing. They're my beneficiary and I need to get it out of their name. and assign it to you all. Well, then that's kind of that's a quandary, and we're happy to take it. But again, that contract will be written standard. So if you pick out, so say your funeral is $4,000 today, cremation, burial, whatever you've chosen is 4, your policy's 10. Well, that's all good. And you live 20 years and the price doubles to 8, we're going to take 8. And then you say, well, what happens to the other 2? Well, whatever's left in the policy that's not used towards your funeral is refunded to the estate. And that is a state statute that we cannot do anything about. Because 90% of the time I hear, well, mom's not going to have an estate because she doesn't have anything. I can't help it. It's still going to be refunded to the estate of that person.
Good.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir. No, sir. Arlington does not take reservations. But we'll handle all that for you. We'll handle all that for you, however long it takes. Oh, yeah, we do need to know. Yeah. Yeah, so we get you in line. Or we'll get you on the list, but it has to be after you pass away. Okay. Did you hear? His question was if he wanted to go to Arlington. Arlington does not accept reservations or pre-registration or picking your plot or any of that. They won't talk to anyone until they've died, till the person has passed away. And then we can help you facilitate that. We have lots of folks right now that are waiting with us, waiting their turn to go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. His question was if his spouse predeceases him and he is the eligible person, can that happen? And the answer is yes. We do that all the time.
Well, that's wonderful because that was going to be my question. And thank you for your service and thank you for all the veterans and spouses in the audience that are that have served. So thank you so much, Kathy. She has a table in the back if you wanted to get some more information. And I'm actually going to introduce now Jennifer Garner with Garner Law Firm. And she's going to be speaking to us. She always does wonderful presentations. No PowerPoint needed. Has it all in her head. Thank you so very much.
There's a lot in my head. That's a scary comment. Thanks for having me today. Wonderful to see all of you and some friendly faces out there as well. Today I was asked to talk about financial powers of attorney. So I understood you already heard a great presentation from hospice talking about healthcare powers of attorney. And this deals with the durable power of attorney, also referred to as the business or the financial power of attorney. So what do you need to do to prepare and have a financial power of attorney ready for the event, in the event that you become incapacitated or you just choose not to deal with financial things anymore? You know, enjoy your retirement, let the kids pay the bills and file all of the tax returns. Need to be over the age of 18, and that's the only legal requirement for you to prepare a power of attorney other than being competent and capable to execute the document. I have teenage children, so I have strongly encouraged my teenagers or forced them to execute financial powers of attorney and healthcare documents because once they turn 18, they are legal adults and mom and dad and others can't make decisions for them. You need to be of sound mind. Sound mind is always questionable for all of us, right? Good days and bad days. It's legal sound mind, which is a little different than medical sound mind. So your attorney can determine whether they are comfortable doing powers of attorney for you and discussing those documents with you. Need to know basically who you are, who your family is, what you have. You don't have to come in and be able to tell me that you have an account at First Bank and rattle off the numbers and tell me exactly what today's balance is, but you need to at least know enough about yourself that you know who the, as the law calls it, the natural objects of your bounty are. That's your family tree, and know who you wish to choose to serve in those capacities. So in North Carolina, I don't think we see very many powers of attorney anymore that are not durable. The document does not have to be titled a durable power of attorney. It can just be called a power of attorney. But there are some folks in different brokerage houses, different banks, different places where you might try to use that document that think that the word durable has to be in the title. What does durable mean? Durable means that you wish for this financial power of attorney to last longer than your mental abilities last. So most of us do a financial power of attorney in the event that we lose our mental faculties and we are unable to handle things ourselves. So of course we would want a durable power of attorney. You could choose, let's say that I have a very busy afternoon in the office today, and I want to give Lynn a limited power of attorney, and I'm going to give her my credit card. Don't worry, Lynn, remember I have 3 teenagers that's already maxed out, but give her my credit card and give her a list of things that I need her to go and pick up for me. That would be a form of power of attorney. I'm the principal. I'm deciding what powers I want to give to her. I'm giving her the capacity to use my charge card and charge those items. And then I'm instructing her with what she's allowed to do. So should she decide to go to Walmart for me and add a lot of things into the cart that she wants for her home, she would be violating the terms of that power of attorney. It would be a durable power of attorney because if I became incapacitated between here and my office this afternoon, I would still want Lynn to be able to go and pick up those items for me at Walmart and take care of things for me. Or maybe I would choose for it to not be durable and I only want her to have the power if I'm safe and competent and capable. But for most estate planning purposes, everybody would want it to be durable and make sure that it lasts to the end of your life. In North Carolina, we don't require witnesses on a financial power of attorney. As you probably heard, you have to have 2 witnesses on a healthcare power of attorney, and those witnesses can't be related to you or interested in your estate. I use 2 witnesses in my office, which is just a personal preference because there are states that require witnesses. I know, for example, Florida requires witnesses. So we have a lot of people from up north that end up retiring here, but a lot of them are what we call halfbackers. They went down to Florida thinking that's where they wanted to retire, but it was a little too hot, didn't get enough change of season, so they came halfway back and stopped here in North Carolina. If they're still traveling to Florida, let's say they kept their RV down there or they bought a condo down there on the ocean, we want to be sure that that power of attorney works for them in Florida as well. So we use 2 witnesses in my office, but they're not legally required. You do need to have a notary present when you execute a financial power of attorney. So if you were signing a document in my office, for a financial power of attorney, you would be in the room, we'd have 2 witnesses and a notary, and everybody would be there to sign. There are short form powers of attorney and there's long form powers of attorney. I'm sure most of my clients are convinced that I love to kill trees, and that's not true. But I am a pretty big proponent of using the long form power of attorney so that people understand what powers you're giving them and what they are allowed to do. If you do the short form power of attorney, it is a list of things with a topic of categories, I guess you could say, of things that you want them to be able to do. And what do those topics mean? They are defined in the statutes. If you do a long form power of attorney, they're actually all typed in there. So they can look at the document themselves and say, oh, I can handle real estate transactions. What does that mean? And in the long form power of attorney, there's a paragraph that says you can sell, you can buy, you can mortgage, you can lease, and it gives all of the things that you're allowed to do under that category. I find that it does kill trees, it does make my power of attorney longer, but it does provide both the person signing and the person receiving the power with a much better understanding of what they are allowed to do or not allowed to do. Gifting. Gifting is something that can cause a lot of issues in my practice. So I do a lot of elder law as well as estate planning. And elder law kind of takes us into a lot of the programs that you heard about today, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, planning for healthcare, planning for funerals, etc. A lot of those programs are benefits based on income and asset limitations. If we are purposely trying to plan for you to be covered, for example, by veterans benefits or Medicaid, then we may want the power to make gifts so that if you're incapacitated and you can't make those gifts yourself, that someone else might be authorized to do that for you if it's for a specific purpose. So we don't just want to give the kids an outright gifting power and find yourself destitute tomorrow instead of retired and having a great time. But you also probably don't want to limit their abilities in the future to qualify you for benefits that you have worked hard for and paid into the system to receive. We do gifting based on estate tax, gift tax, or inheritance tax rules. The good news in North Carolina, we don't have estate tax, inheritance tax, or gift tax anymore, so great place to live. The federal government does, so if you have more than $12 million, you might need to go see an estate planning attorney and get some gifting provisions drafted for estate tax purposes, but that's kind of a side point. Benefits planning, gifting provisions need to be pretty specific, and they are not included in the forms that you would pick up at Staples or Office Depot, or maybe the traffic attorney's office that doesn't do estate planning. So you want to be sure that you make clear to your attorney what you're trying to accomplish and how you want those things to be handled in your estate. There's nothing wrong with leaving a gifting provision out. Just understand that a lot of the time you will then, for one reason or another, not qualify for benefits until you are literally destitute down to $2,000, for example, in Medicaid. And we may not even be able to protect assets for your spouse. So that's one of the things that is the scariest and that bothers me the most when I meet people very late in the planning process and they've not executed those powers of attorney and they are too far in their trip into dementia or another illness where we can't fix that. And we can't transfer the house to the spouse and the car to the spouse or some of the assets to the spouse that the spouse would have been able to keep. So gifting provisions are important, and you want to talk to your attorney about those. So let's talk about who you choose. So you might have family. You might have family that you don't want to choose. You may have an attorney, a CPA, a financial advisor, a trust officer, somebody that you want to be your financial power of attorney. That choice is completely up to you. What I suggest that you do is kind of think through who the people are that you know and or that are in your family. What are their abilities? Do they balance their own checkbook? Do they pay their own bills? That's usually kind of the first thing you want to be sure so that your bills don't go delinquent or your money doesn't get used on their bills. Do they have the time to do this for you? It's a little easier nowadays with everything kind of online and the kids able to use the apps on their phone to make deposits and transfer things for you. But it's still a consideration. So if you have a child that's in the military and is all around the world on a regular basis, might not be the person that you want to choose to be your financial power of attorney, depending on the ability to reach them. Think about distance. If your daughter is wonderful, but you only see her once a year for a long weekend at Easter, and she doesn't have the ability to travel because she has 3 young triplets and her husband's job takes him out of town all the time. Those are certainly things that you want to consider before you name them. And then think about the age range. So I have some clients that name a sibling, for example. Well, that's great, but if your sister's only 3 years younger than you are, we want to think about another alternate behind her, maybe a niece or a nephew, somebody that would be down an age bracket for you. filing requirements. So the old rule was that you had to file your financial power of attorney in order for it to be used by banks and brokerage houses, and you always had to do it for real estate transactions. The new rule, you know, we call everything new in the law that's like 2000 and newer. But in 2018, they completely rewrote all of the law on financial powers of attorney. So if your financial powers of attorney are older than 2018, just a good idea to touch base with your estate planning attorney and just see if they think that any of the new provisions under the current statutes would be helpful to you in your situation. It did not revoke the documents that were executed prior to 2018. It just added some new bells and whistles. And if you need those bells and whistles now while you're competent and capable is the perfect time to go and visit with your attorney and get those updated. So one of the things that the 2018 change did is it said that your financial power of attorney does not have to be recorded at the registry upon your incompetency. But I'll tell you, for practical purposes, even though that was 5 years ago, banks and brokerage houses and insurance companies and the like are very slow on updating their checklists and their manuals. Most all of them still require that they see that certificate that the Register of Deeds puts on there when you record the power of attorney. So as a standard practice in my office, rather than causing the client any additional grief and stress, we usually recommend that it is recorded at such time that they're ready for someone to act for them. It just makes it easier with a lot of those companies. If you are going to handle a real estate transaction for somebody under a power of attorney, it does have to be recorded in the county in which the real estate is located. So do make sure it's recorded then. There are different kinds of powers of attorney. One is called a springing, and the other I would call an immediate power of attorney. A springing power of attorney is one that has conditions in it. When two doctors decide that I'm not capable of taking care of my own affairs, then my son can be my agent. If you really have studied and thought about who to choose, my personal preference as a planning attorney is to not put those contingencies in your documents because it only makes it harder for your family to act and to help you. You know how hard it can be to get in and see a doctor and get a diagnosis. They're busy people. If you've ever dealt with anybody with dementia, you know that there's a lot of gray areas. Sometimes they have sundowners. Sometimes you'd never know they have any issues if they have a doctor's appointment at 8 a.m. But what if the only time the doctor can see them is 3 p.m.? Sometimes the doctor's seeing a completely different person at 3 p.m. than they would have seen at 8 a.m. And getting letters from two doctors who both agree that you're no longer able to handle matters for yourself can be very difficult and very time consuming. It's likely that your loved ones, your family members are doing the best they can to take care of you. They're already stressed, it's already a crisis point, and it can be difficult. But certainly those provisions can be drafted in, and we just take the client's preference as far as drafting. Revoking. So some clients always want to double check, make sure that once they sign that, they can definitely revoke it. And the answer to that is yes, you can definitely revoke a financial power of attorney. If it's been recorded, you have to file the revocation. So you just want to be sure if it's been recorded at the Register of Deeds that when you revoke it, you file the revocation. So anybody looking at the Register of Deeds site or in the Register of Deeds office will know whether that's still an effective power of attorney or not. If you've not recorded it, you simply want to destroy the original and let anybody know that you've distributed copies to that you have revoked it. So let's talk about what happens if you don't have this financial power of attorney. So if you don't have the financial power of attorney, your family or your loved ones are required to do a guardianship. So guardianship is a court proceeding, and it's sad and it's expensive. It's time consuming, and chances are your family already has enough stress and enough going on at that time. There's different kinds of guardianship. So a guardianship is where maybe your neighbor notices that you're not coming out to get your mail, or that you're getting your mail and you're just tossing it on the yard, or you're taking it straight to the garbage pile. They're concerned about you. So your neighbor goes up to the courthouse and files for guardianship. They appoint a guardian ad litem to represent you, which is a local attorney appointed in that capacity. That guardian ad litem will visit you, talk to you, probably look at your medical records, and try to determine whether they feel that the neighbor is justified in asking for a guardian to be appointed. When you make it to the courtroom for your court hearing, the clerk of court or a jury of 12 people, whichever is chosen, will then have to determine whether you're competent or incompetent. Very disruptive, very embarrassing, very hard to sit there as either a family member or someone involved in the transaction. And if the court finds you to be incompetent, then the clerk of court must appoint a guardian. Now, the neighbor might have asked to be guardian, or the neighbor may have just said, I'm very concerned about this person and I'm just asking the court to appoint someone. They do notify your next of kin. So if they've handled the transaction properly, they've notified anybody that would be involved. The clerk of court can choose a family member, or they can choose someone that you've never met. So kind of scary. It's there to protect you, though, if you don't have a financial power of attorney. It is an audited process, which means that that guardian that gets appointed must locate all of your assets, locate all of your income, and then report to the court on an annual basis to show exactly what came in and exactly what went out, and to show that all of it was done for your benefit. And they audit that, and of course they charge a fee for that as well. You have the court costs. Of course, you have a lot of time delay. You have to hire attorneys. There are different kinds of guardianship. Sometimes it's just the guardian of the person, which means that it's like a healthcare power of attorney, where this person has no one to take care of them and protect them and their body. Sometimes it's guardian of the estate, which is like a financial power of attorney, where you take care of all of the finances. Or it can just be the full guardianship, where that same person is doing both. There are limited guardianships available. That, of course, is always my personal preference, to not take away someone's rights to make their own decisions and to do things themselves unless it truly is harmful to them. And if that's the case, then let's limit it. So let's say that we have a client that loves to stay up all night and shop on QVC. And not just something that she's always done before, but something that's a new habit that might be related to an illness or a form of dementia or post-stroke. We may want to do a limited guardianship and just say that she can't handle transactions larger than $500. So, a guardian would have to manage things of large financial amount, but she would still be able to take her checkbook and go to the hairdresser. She'd still be able to go to the grocery store, as long as she's not feeding 3 teenagers, because the bill would be larger than $500. And then the clerk would just audit all of the bigger expenses that were occurring. The guardian has to post a bond, so that's another expense that you run into, to make sure they don't run off with the person's funds. And then you have to go back and you have to have different court orders issued depending on what you want to do as the guardian. So let's say the person's no longer safe living in their home, and in order to take care of them in an assisted living facility or a skilled nursing facility, you need to sell the home. You have to go back to the court and get the clerk of court to issue an order stating that it is okay to sell the home and that the contract price is appropriate before you're able to sell to a buyer. And that was really all that I was trying to cram into my 20 minutes. You guys have any questions? Okay. Mm-hmm. So the question was about a fee being assessed to somebody that you might appoint as your financial power of attorney that lives out of state. There are no fees for that. When you execute the financial power of attorney, you're basically choosing to stay out of the court audit or the court review process, and that would be the only place where a fee would be assessed. You can choose anybody that you want to, and they can be located anywhere that you wish for them to be. Now, that may have been dealing with a personal representative of an estate or an executor under a will. So you can name people out of state to serve on your will or be the executor of your estate. But if you do that, the local rule is that you have to have an attorney appointed to represent the estate, because the clerk of court's jurisdiction does not cross the border. And so if you name your son in Washington, D.C. to be the executor of your estate, that's fine. He can be the executor and there's no additional fees charged, but he does have to be represented by an attorney within North Carolina, so that basically they have someone on the hook to make sure that the paperwork gets done and everything gets filed. Okay. Yes, ma'am, you had a question? Oh, great question. So what's the difference between a will and a living will? So what we refer to as a will is usually a last will and testament, which is when I die, how do I want my estate handled, who's going to handle it for me, and where do I want all of my assets distributed. A living will is usually what people refer to, and it's the declaration of desire for natural death. So it's what one of the prior speakers spoke about, wanting to make your decision ahead of time about whether you want your life prolonged by any kind of artificial means. Some people talk about living trusts. Living trusts are documents that you can use as part of your estate plan, sort of like a will replacement. You would still have a basic will that just said, if I didn't put everything in my trust and I forgot some stuff, or if I overpaid Kathy for my funeral and she needs to cut a check back to my estate, then that estate and that will would still say, handle all of my assets, and then what I forgot, put in my trust. And your trust is a separate document from a will that controls your assets. Definitely need a power of attorney and a will. Power of attorney is for while you're living, someone to assist you and take care of you and make decisions for you. And then your will, the last will and testament, takes over when you die. So your financial power of attorney dies with you. Yes, ma'am. So you can draft one document, your attorney can draft one document that is a financial power of attorney and a healthcare power of attorney. That's perfectly legal. Just need to be sure that there are those two witnesses and a notary, because that's required for the healthcare portion to be effective in North Carolina. I will tell you it is not something I recommend. So let me tell you why. I want your healthcare power of attorney as widely distributed as you can make it. I mean, if you could tattoo it to your chest or attach it on a beautiful chain every morning, that would be a great idea. Because who's going to know that you have a healthcare power of attorney if you haven't distributed it? So we want it on record at the local hospital. We want your doctor to have it. We would love for you to have the file of life on your refrigerator, have the yellow dot program in your vehicle for the glove box copy. I don't want your financial power of attorney distributed everywhere. So I prefer to break them apart. We don't need a bunch of people reading your financial power of attorney and having those types of control over your assets. Yes, ma'am. I'm moving this way to that way. I'm not ignoring you guys. Yes, ma'am. So an immediate power of attorney, or one without any springing provisions, would allow that person to jump in and act when and if you request that they do that, or when you become unable to act for yourself and request it. So, for example, I have a durable power of attorney signed. I think I'm fine today and I can pay my own bills and do my own things. If someone else felt different, though, and maybe this afternoon I didn't remember a lot of things, or I was having issues understanding math or something to that effect, then my financial power of attorney would already be signed and available for someone to act for me. And that's why you have to really trust the person that's in charge of that, so that they're making that decision about when to sort of activate that and make that move. Okay, crossing center aisle. Yes, sir. You definitely want to have separate documents for husband and for wife. There's no such thing as a joint power of attorney. A lot of people assume that when you marry, you have control over the other's assets. It's not true. You guys can do whatever you want to do with your own assets, with a few little exceptions, like the federal government, when they do their 401ks and 403bs, they require you to name your spouse as a beneficiary unless your spouse waives. But you definitely want to have separate estate planning documents, which is a great thing because you may want to choose different alternates. A lot of my clients choose their spouse in the first place to make healthcare decisions or financial decisions for them, but then you want to have alternates named, and you might feel differently about children, or you may be a blended family and want to choose different folks to act for you. Yes, ma'am. Mhm. Whenever you cross a state line and you become a resident elsewhere, you should always see your estate planning attorney to review those documents. There's no such thing as a federal will or a federal healthcare power of attorney, a federal living will, or a federal financial power of attorney. They're all state-based documents, with the exception if you are an active service member, there are some federal documents you can do on base, but otherwise you need to have them reviewed. I always encourage anybody that moves to this state to definitely execute new healthcare documents. There's one time that you don't want attorneys running around trying to decide whether documents are legal, and that's when you're on a hospital gurney and people are trying to decide what to do with you. So highly recommend a review. And just be careful if you have healthcare documents in place. I know hospice usually does a wonderful drive-through program once a year to help people out and help them execute documents. But the only thing I'd be careful about is when you do execute new documents, there's verbiage in those that revoke all of your prior documents. So you just want to be careful that you're not updating and revoking something that you already had in place and may have preferred. So just be careful. Thanks for having me. I think Lynn has some closing remarks and maybe some door prizes.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for everybody coming today. We do have door prizes to give away now. So the bad news for the people who left early is, of course, they're not in it now to win it, but they also, missed out on great information. So I want to thank all the speakers today for great information. Thank you for all the vendors. We have wonderful table vendors that weren't even part of the presentation, so I hope you visited all the tables. This would just be an all-day event if we let everybody have a talk. There's just so much information to give. So now I'm going to ask my coworker, Alvita, to come up here and help me, because I've numbered all of your names, and I want you to pick a number between 1 and 61. 18, my favorite number. It's my lucky number. Okay, so Scott Halso. Is Scott Halso here? He's not. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, well, you've got to pick another number. 22. How about Roberta Helen? All right. Okay, Veronica from Home Choice Network is going to be providing you with our door prize here. Another number, please. 10. Number 10 is Elise Fowler. All right, we have Mike Inaselli. Look at that. Got some booze. All right, next number? 33 is Warren Mensch. Is Warren Mensch here? Pick another number, please. 30. Number 30, Peggy Luckman. Peggy Luckman. Okay. 12, Carol Gramercy. Good gosh. 2, Lynn Bassig or Bassig. No. All right. 22. We'll see how many people are still here. Roberta Hallett, we already did that. So we got to keep, we already did 18. 17, Judy Halso. Jody. We have Judy. Yay, I'm glad you won something. See, tell your husband if you'd have 2 gifts. All right. And that was with the Baptist, what is it? BAM, Baptist Aging Ministry. Thank you so much for coming today. 5, Susan Brawler. All right. Your gift is from Garner Law Firm. 7, Linda Carroll. All right. Linda Carroll will get the other prize from Garner Law Firm. Okay? Number 1, Beulah Warren. She'll get the Greens at Pinehurst's beautiful prize right there. Yay. 28. Winston Laughlin. What a great name. You will get a gift from Function and Wellness Mobile OT. Okay. 40. Elizabeth O'Donnell. All right. You get a gift from Pinehurst Healthcare and Rehab.
31.
Brenda Manus. Yay! Brenda gets the other gift from Pinehurst Healthcare and Rehab.
15. Did I say 15?
You did not. Barry Guthrie. Barry gets the gift from Bowles Funeral. Yes.
26.
We're taxing her for being here. Edith Kaler. Yeah, there's Edith. Okay, you get the other gift from Bowles Funeral. 23 is Laura Holt. Laura is not here. 25 is Jocelyn Jones. All right, you get the, looks like an Easter basket from First Health Hospice and Palliative Care. And one last gift is from Home Choice Network, and it's a bottle of booze. 13, Phyllis Green. Is Phyllis here? Okay, very good. Yay. Well, thank you to everybody. Thank you to all the door prizes that were provided. Thank you for sitting in your chairs for the 4 hours.